we're seeing a rise in inflammation. We're seeing a rise in insulin resistance. We are seeing an inability to be able to lose fat, and we're seeing a predisposition when we start gaining fat, especially in the belly. If you're a little grazer or a little nibbler, a little snacker, doesn't matter if it's very little food. Doesn't matter if it's healthy. And so even if you are fasting, eating low calorie, not having carbs, in the absence of food, your blood sugar can go up due to stress. We need to make sure we're getting enough carbs because carbohydrates bring cortisol down. Remember, if cortisol is high, it's dumping sugar in your bloodstream. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I'm your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness coaching company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it's the hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or waking around the middle. That seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere, despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working. You are putting in all this effort and you are just moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time in your life so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today we are doing a part 2 of hormones that are going to affect your fat storing and fat burning pathways. Last day we talked all about estrogen. Today we are talking all about blood sugar and insulin because this is something that we have so many women struggle with where they are like, I have changed nothing, Steph. Literally nothing. And all of a sudden I went to my doctor and now my A1C is a problem and he's telling me to cut carbs and fast and I just don't know what to do. Like I literally changed nothing. This doesn't make sense to me. And so first I want to talk about how your fat burning and fat storing pathways really work. First of all, how that is going to have implications for blood sugar, but also how blood sugar is going to affect that. And then talk about hormonally, like what happens during perimenopause and menopause that makes this happen. How does this make fat loss more challenging? And then how can we actually open up those fat burning pathways and allow you to lose weight without having to do crazy caloric restriction, without having to cut carbs, without fasting? We do this with women all the time. And so let's really dive into this. So first, fat burning, fat storing pathways. Fat burning pathway, very important because it's going to obviously allow our body to burn fat. Release fat cells into the bloodstream, broken down, we use it for energy, we lose inches. Amazing. This is what we want, right? But there are other things that are really important when it comes to this pathway. The first one is going to be, improving insulin sensitivity. Amazing. Decreasing inflammation. Very important to avoid chronic conditions. But also it does something very important called autophagy. And what autophagy is that it eats up all the dead cells because, things get replicated in our body and sometimes things get replicated that aren't supposed to, or things get replicated so much. And then we have these things like these zombie cells that they talk about, the senescent cells that increase inflammation. Inflammation is going to block your fat burning, making it even harder. But that's not even the main issue. The main issue is if we can't access this fat burning pathway and we can't clean up those dead cells, we see an increase in things like cancer risks. We see increase in cardiovascular disease. We see increase in diabetes and blood sugar related issues. And so it's not just, I want to lose weight. I need this pathway to be open. You need this pathway to be open to be healthy, to be strong, to be here for years down the road for your family. Then we have our storing and growth pathway. This pathway, first of all, is not a bad thing because we need to access it to build muscle, to repair, help support our immune system. However, when our fat burning pathway becomes blocked and this pathway becomes overstimulated, our body is never being able to clean up dead stuff. We're seeing a rise in inflammation. We're seeing a rise in insulin resistance. We are seeing an inability to be able to lose fat, and we're seeing a predisposition. We start gaining fat, especially in the belly. We see our mitochondrial function gets worse. We know that's going to lead to disease progression. We start seeing struggles with energy and more cravings, muscle loss even. Not a good situation to be in. And so this pathway isn't bad on its own. It's when we're stuck in it where we have this big issue. And so where does insulin come into this, first of all? Insulin strongly inhibits your fat burning pathway. it turns on that storing pathway. And the issue that we see is that it's not bad if insulin comes up. Insulin is supposed to come up every time that we eat to help bring sugar and nutrients into our cells. That is supposed to happen. We want that to happen. The issue is that if insulin is chronically high due to, insulin resistance, or we're nibblers, snackers, if you are eating all day, that means blood sugar stays elevated all day, which means insulin needs to stay elevated all day. Or we're eating highly processed foods. We have a lot of inflammation or stress in our body. All of those things are going to cause blood sugars to stay elevated and are going to keep insulin high. When insulin stays high chronically, this is where we see that blocked fat burning pathway. We keep that storing pathway all the time. And so we never get to flip into that fat burning pathway. So this is where we see the fat accumulation around your belly. This is where we struggle to lose weight. We have that increase in cravings. We have more inflammation. We're struggling with gut health issues. We actually start having the brain fog and a lot of the symptoms that come with perimenopause and menopause. And this is because our fat burning pathway is only activated when our energy levels are low, like when we're fasting or when we're eating low calorie and we're increasing our steps, when we have that discrepancy between calories in, calories out. But if you are doing all of those things and your insulin resistance is high, we have high insulin, your fat burning pathway is blocked and your storing pathway is on. And so when that happens, your body is told, we have enough nutrients, let's store the rest, despite the fact that you're eating low calorie, despite the fact that you're fasting, despite the fact that you're eating low carb, you're eating clean, you're hitting your protein, you're doing the exercise, you're doing all the right things. If your fat burning pathway is stuck on, your body is told we have enough, let's store, regardless of what else is going on. And so we need to figure out what is the thing that is causing this to be overactive. And there's many things, but insulin resistance is a major, major contributor to this. And so when we are looking at insulin and how this really works, there's just so much to cover here. Okay, so the way it works is we eat something, whether it's carbohydrates, whether it's protein, whether it's fat, doesn't matter. Our blood sugars are going to rise every single time we eat. It's going to be determined a lot based on the order of eating, believe it or not. And we're going to talk about how to improve blood sugar control at the end of all this for you. But it's going to depend on what the food is made of, the order of eating, if we're having fluids around it, how highly processed it is. There are so many things that are going to impact how quickly your stomach empties. The quicker your stomach empties, the higher the blood sugar spike and the following drop. The slower your stomach empties, the slower the rise in blood sugar. So it's going to be a very slow, gradual rise. It's going to maintain there for a while and then slowly come down. This is what we want to see. And this is good. We want our blood sugars to come up and then slowly come down. But the higher the blood sugars, the more insulin is needed. So if you're constantly having these spikes all the time, this is where we start seeing insulin resistance. And this is why we're seeing it happen so much, first of all, in children, because we're giving them Fruit Loops in the morning. Very quick digesting carbohydrate, very highly processed, lots of sugar. And so they're sending them to school with this huge blood sugar spike, and then it drops. And now they're hangry. They can't focus. They don't have enough energy. They start misbehaving at school. And now you give them their snack. Okay, well, their snack might be fruit, but fruit on its own is still going to digest very quickly. So we should be having something beforehand. Maybe it's a piece of cheese or whatever it might be. Or maybe we're giving them Dunkaroos or fruit roll-ups or whatever the kids' treats are these days, which are packed full of sugar. And so again, the same thing happens again. Blood sugar spikes, super crazy energy, and then it drops and they tank and they're emotional and they're not behaving and they're not paying attention. And this up and down, up and down, up and down, when we have that big high spike, insulin has to go up to try and bring all that energy into the cells. And then over time, this causes insulin resistance. This is why we're seeing diabetes type 2 being so prevalent in children nowadays. Because they're constantly being pumped full of insulin to try and help bring those sugars into their bloodstream. The other thing too that comes with this is snacking all the time. If we are snacking all the time, think about like you might be like, oh, I don't eat real big meals. I just like nibble during the day. Okay, every time you eat, blood sugar is going to come up. So you're never allowing it to come down to go into that fat burning pathway. Because if insulin is up, fat burning is blocked. And so if you're the kind of person that just like snacks all day, blood sugar stays elevated, even if you're eating really good foods, even if you're not eating that many calories, it doesn't matter. And so that's another thing that we see contributing to this as well. And then the other thing that we see is that stress plays a massive role in this. I did a whole podcast on stress and blood sugar. And so even if you are fasting, eating low calorie, not having carbs, in the absence of food, your blood sugar can go up due to stress because your body thinks that you are in danger. You are in fight or flight. Imagine that you're hiking and you see a bear. Your body is going to flood your system with cortisol, your stress hormone, and then your liver is going to release so much sugar into your bloodstream to provide you with energy to fight that bear or run away from the bear. Probably run away from the bear, right? And so this is what happens. We want that to happen. However, we are in this state of fight or flight, high stress, high cortisol all of the time. And you don't realize that this happens when you're not eating. So when you're fasting, when you're eating low calorie, when you're eating low carb, because carbohydrates lower cortisol, but cortisol is going to dump sugar into your bloodstream so fast. So this is really important to be aware of. So under eating, fasting, cutting carbs, eating really low calorie, if we are go all the time, being on at work, like right now, my body is pumping me. Actually, probably not. I ate not that long ago. So I have enough sugar in my bloodstream to sustain me. But if I was doing this and undernourished, my body would be pumping my bloodstream full of sugar because I'm on, right? I'm doing something, even though it's fulfilling and I love it, I'm on and it needs energy. And so this happens when we're like struggling with trauma and grief and deadlines and we're go and rushing around and we're working through our lunch breaks and we're just scarfing down food really quick. And we're just, we're constantly on all the time. And so what happens is our body is constantly dumping sugar in our bloodstream, even if you are not eating. And so that's going to cause your blood sugars to go up. When blood sugar goes up, insulin needs to come in to be able to bring the sugars into your cells. We know that you are likely struggling with some insulin resistance if after meals you feel very sluggish and very tired, because what should be happening is that energy should be going into your cells. If you are very sluggish, this tells me your mitochondria are not very good at receiving that energy. This tells me you're going to have more inflammation, which is going to block fat burning even more. Inflammation is also going to drive insulin resistance up even more, because if your body isn't receiving that energy, right? Like if you are sluggish after your meals, that means your body's not receiving that energy well. That means your body is pumping more and more insulin to try and help you to get it into your cells. And so what happens if that's not happening? Guess what happens? It gets stored into fat. And so you could be not eating and you're in a high stress state, and then your body's releasing sugar into your bloodstream, and then it's being stored as fat because your body isn't able to utilize it well. This is what we're seeing over and over and over again. And insulin resistance, if we are struggling with this all of the time, all day, which most of us don't even realize is happening, our fat burning pathway is blocked. Our storing pathway is just chronically stuck on. Our body is constantly told we don't have enough, let's store. Or we have enough energy, let's store. Even though you're not eating, even though you're eating low carb, even though you're eating low calorie, even though you're fasting, even though you're doing the workouts, because you're in this chronically stressed state. So between food choices that we're making, not eating enough food, being highly stressed, snacking all day, we're just constantly stuck in this growth pathway. And so then where does this fit in with perimenopause and menopause? Well, estrogen plays a massive role in blood sugar regulation. It makes our body better at receiving that energy. So we become more insulin resistant already when estrogen declines. When estrogen declines, we have more inflammation. Remember when I talked about inflammation, blocked fat burning, also increase in insulin resistance. We also see when estrogen goes down, we have less muscle mass being maintained because our body, it's like muscles like extra parking spots for sugar, more places for it to go so we don't need as much insulin to help us, right? So it gets stored somewhere else. It gets parked in our liver and then it gets parked in little parking spots in our muscle cells. The less muscle you have, the less parking cells you have, that's going to get stored to fat instead. You need places for this energy to go. And so we start losing muscle mass. But this also happens when we're stressed out. When we're stressed out, our body breaks down muscle mass, takes it to our liver turns it into sugar, dumps it into our bloodstream, insulin goes up, body is already insulin resistant, not very good at receiving it, gets stored as fat mass, break down muscle mass more, so you're breaking down muscle and we're gaining fat, even though we're not eating a lot. And so we know that when estrogen goes down, it's very easy for cortisol to go up now. Before you could handle a 9 out of 10 before cortisol went up and started doing this process of dumping sugar into your bloodstream. Now it's only a 5 out of 10. So this is where we see people who are like, Steph, I have changed nothing. I am eating healthier now. I am more active now. And the weight just is not coming off. And now all of a sudden my blood sugar is a problem. Yes, because estrogen went down, which makes you more insulin resistant, increases inflammation, which makes you more insulin resistant. It's going to decrease muscle mass, which makes you more insulin resistant. You're more stressed out, which makes you more insulin resistant. And so all of these things are happening and you didn't change anything. You changed nothing in your actions or what you're eating, but internally things have changed and you're just pushing, putting more stress on the system, which again is just going to make that even worse, right? And so understanding how this actually works is so important because as long as insulin is high, and we're snacking all the time, we're going to see that fat burning pathway is blocked. That storage pathway is stuck on. So how do we improve insulin? How do I make sure that I'm not constantly pumping my body full of insulin so that I can actually get into fat burning? Because as long as insulin's up, growth pathway is on, always. So number one thing you got to do is decrease your freaking stress because you could be eating all the right things, hitting your macros perfectly, doing the right workout program. But if your stress is high, it is constantly dumping sugar into your bloodstream, which means insulin goes up. And then once insulin comes down because all the sugar has gone down, guess what? Cortisol goes and does it again. And so no matter what, stress will always win. So we need to make sure that we are actually de-stressing. What does this look like? Because we can't remove stress from our life, right? People are like, oh, you just need to meditate. No, I hate meditation. I'll be honest. I really do. I cannot do it. I start making a list of all the things I need to do. And then I start stressing myself out more. And it's this whole thing. So how do we buffer stress so that we're not combating this anymore? So the first thing is, have you considered breathing? Which I think is super funny, but it's true. We are just so on and go all day. Before you go for your lunch break, before you go to eat, stop and take 10 really slow, deep breaths. Like breathe as slowly as possible, as fully as possible, fully inhale, fully exhale. That brings you out of fight or flight. That'll take you like a minute. We need to practice pulling ourselves out. So slowing down that way. Do things that bring your heart rate and breathing rate down. So for me, I love spending time in prayer. I love doing my gratitude. I love journaling. I love doing my daily devotionals. Spending time with God and Jesus really, really helps me. That's one of the best ways for me to instantly bring my heart rate down, bring my breathing rate down. For other people, it might be a different kind of journaling. Maybe you're doing something with journaling prompts. Maybe you're doing a gratitude journal. For other people, it might be sitting and crocheting. It's something you really love, but it brings her heart rate and breathing rate down. Maybe it's an adult coloring book. My mom used to love these. She always had, by the couch, she had her little box with all her knitting supplies and her coloring supplies. And she would do that in the evenings to de-stress and calm down. Doing feet up on the wall is great because when we're in this fight or flight mode, we have our heart rate and our blood will start moving blood to our arms and legs to help us fight the bear, run away from the bear. And so what a great thing that we can do is lay on the floor, feet up on the wall, and that brings blood flow back from the legs to the gut, which is going to help you with digestion, but it forces your heart rate down, your breathing rate down, your blood pressure comes down to bring you out of that fight or flight state. So doing that for like 5 minutes a day, amazing. If you can do that midday, even better, but doing it before bed is awesome. This can look like having tea and just sitting outside. We're always so overstimulated, listening to things and watching things and reading things and scrolling. When's the last time you just sat outside and just sat for 5 minutes? You just listened to nature? Try it. These are things that can make a very big difference. So de-stressing doesn't have to be this big like bubble bath, booking a massage. Like those things are great, but it's the little 5-minute things that can make a big difference. The first thing when you wake up, don't look at your phone. Put your phone in a different room if you have to, or across the room. So you have to get out of bed to get it, right? These are little things that will make a big difference. And so now how we're talking about the morning, our stress is going to be the highest in the morning, our cortisol. It's supposed to be highest in the morning. That's what wakes us up. And so one of the best things to do to help bring that down, because remember, if our stress is high all day, we're pumping sugar into our bloodstream, insulin stays high, blocks fat burning. And so it's going to be highest in the morning. If we are eating breakfast, that helps bring it down because carbohydrates are going to bring, and food in general are going to bring cortisol down. So having a breakfast within 90 minutes of waking, we're not having coffee first because coffee will increase your cortisol levels, right? Can also really negatively affect your blood sugars depending on the person. So having breakfast within 90 minutes of waking, making sure that breakfast has at least 25 grams of protein. I prefer 30 if you can. And then having your coffee afterwards. This is going to make it so that you're not stuck in this fight or flight mode right away. Because otherwise we're like up and down all day. So having that solid breakfast that's high in protein is going to help increase your blood sugar just a little bit. It'll maintain and then it'll slowly come down because we know that high protein is going to help decrease how quickly things empty your stomach. Remember, the slower something empties your stomach, the lower the blood sugar response, the less insulin you need, the less likely your fat burning pathway is going to be blocked. Okay. The next thing is order of eating while we're talking about food here. So when we are talking about food, you want to have most of your veggies and protein first before dipping into your carbohydrates. So last night I had pasta for dinner with chicken and a dill pickle kale salad. And so what I did is I ate half of my chicken breast and part of my salad first before dipping into my pasta. Because having protein and veggie first is going to slow how quickly my stomach empties. If I were to have my pasta first, it would digest very quickly. So you want to make sure you're having some carbs or some veggies or protein first before dipping into those carbs. If you're having something like a casserole, or let's say you're having a wrap or a sandwich, you're not going to break it apart and eat individual thing. Have a hard-boiled egg before. Have some cheese before. Have some veggies and dip. Have a side salad before. Super easy ways to help slowly empty your stomach so you're not having that crazy blood sugar spike and drop. We're not having insulin come up really high, and then we're not having that fat burning pathway blocked. The next one is making sure you are eating enough food. So this is a really big one because if you are eating low calorie, that's a stress on your body. And so I know a lot of us are like, well, I need to lose weight. Remember, if our body is stressed and we're constantly dumping sugar into our bloodstream, insulin stays up, and we are going to find that that fat burning pathway stays blocked, that storage pathway stays on, and so our body is going to be told, keep storing, despite the fact that you're eating less. And so for myself, this was something that was very evident for me. My stress was really high. My hormones were really crappy. I was struggling with energy, crashing after meals. I was a disaster. If you want to go back and look at my Dutch test podcast that I did not that long ago, I shared all that with you. And part of the thing that I had to do was increase my carbs and increase my calories. I've dropped 7 pounds since then because it's allowed my fat burning pathways to be opened. So my body's not being told to store anymore. So I'm able to lose weight at a higher calorie intake than I was before. And so this is really, really important, right? We need to make sure we're eating enough food, but how much is enough? I get that question all the time. It's going to depend so much on your past dieting history, your symptoms, your energy, your digestion, your sleep habits. What was dieting like before? Where's your food intake right now? How active are you? What kind of job do you have? What's your routine kind of look like? All of those things are going to influence how many calories that your body actually needs to open up those fat burning pathways. We see this in people all the time. It is not just age, height, weight. That's not enough because we need to know what else is going on and how much energy your body actually needs. The next thing is just eating enough protein in general, like I talked about with breakfast. So aiming for at least 30 grams per meal of protein is ideal. We want to aim for 0.8 grams to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. I typically like to max women out around 150 grams just because protein is tougher to digest. So if you're eating low protein right now and you jump up really quickly, you will be constipated, you will be bloated, you will feel like crap because protein does take time to digest. It's hard work, so it'll take time for your body to adjust to that. So track where you are now and then slowly increase over time. Otherwise, you are going to have some serious digestive issues and you are not going to feel super great. Paying attention to water around meal times. This is something that's not talked about. If you drink a bunch of water before your meal times, it speeds up how quickly your stomach empties. Blood sugar spike. We don't want that. So avoiding water around mealtimes as much as you can. And also, if you're having a bunch of water at your meals, the other thing you need to know is it dilutes your pH levels of your stomach. And that means that certain, we have certain digestive enzymes and things like that that are only activated at a certain pH. So if we're diluting that, then things aren't getting broken down because we don't have enough of those enzymes. And then we start having bloating after meals. Decreasing water around your mealtimes can make a massive difference, not only for your digestion, but your blood sugars as well. Walking after meals. So movement is going to help your body use the energy, right? If we are being active, our body is it more easily accepts the energy to be used because you're actively doing something. So going for a 5-minute walk after meals can do a big difference in terms of helping you regulate your blood sugar too. Strength training. Like I mentioned, we need more spaces for energy to go and not be favored to fat cells. So this is where we want to make sure that we have enough muscle. And remember, it's very hard to build muscle in perimenopause and menopause when estrogen starts to decline and when we're in a stress state, because both those things tell our body to break down muscle for energy. So what we need to do is make sure that we are actually resistance training. So what this means is start with 3 days a week, full body. Okay, because if you're doing legs one day, arms on legs, and core one day, you're not hitting muscle groups often enough. 3 days full body. Every Monday will look the same. Wednesday will look different from Monday, but every Wednesday will look the same. Every Friday will look the same. And you do the exact same workouts for 4 to 6 weeks before you change it. Every week you are trying to get stronger, because if I am not trying to lift heavier, my body has no reason to put on muscle mass. If I go from lifting 15 pounds 10 times and then I'm trying to lift 20 pounds 10 times, my body is going, whoa, Steph needs to meet this demand. Therefore, we must maintain and build muscle so that she can do the thing that she's asking us to do. If you are never challenging yourself in strength, your body has no reason to change. And so we also want to make sure we're challenging ourselves. So if I'm lifting, the goal is like 10 reps. If I can do more than 12, it's too light. The first reps don't even matter. All the stimulus for change happens in those last challenging 3 repetitions. So if I can do more than 12, I didn't even get to the point where my body is getting that challenge signal to change. So the reps are, I don't want to say a waste of time, but they're kind of a waste of time. It's junk volume. And so you want to actually challenge yourself week to week to week. Slow down the movement, go heavier so that you cannot go too above what you're supposed to do. And then you're going to take a 2-minute rest period to replenish that energy so you can challenge yourself just as much to send that muscle building and maintenance signal. The workouts where you're doing 60 seconds rest, where you're changing it up all the time, there's no structure, it's different week to week, and it's very sweaty, lots of jumping, that doesn't build muscle. Anyone can make a workout challenging. Anyone can make a workout sweaty. Add in some burpees. Add in some unnecessary jumping and jogging. That is not effective. It is not going to get you to the result that you want. Anyone can make a workout hard. It's not that hard to do. It's not that hard. It takes a lot to know what makes an effective workout. So that's the science behind that. And we want to make sure that we have as much muscle mass as possible, because we lose up to 10% of our body mass or our muscle mass in the 3 to 4 years before we even hit menopause. And you could be in it right now and have no freaking idea. And then muscle loss just continues after that point. We don't want that. And so you need to make sure that we have enough muscle, because it makes our body better at burning calories. It is going to make us more insulin sensitive. So we're not going into that storing fat pathway. We're more likely to burn fat. It improves that insulin sensitivity. It decreases inflammation. It is going to help counteract all the things that block fat burning. You need muscle mass. The next one is sleep. If you are not getting good quality sleep, insulin resistance goes up. We see this all the time. If you do not get a good night's sleep, the next day you are struggling with cravings because your stress response is higher. You have more inflammation. Your blood sugar is more erratic. You are going to give into those cravings. You're going to be up and down all day. That's going to keep insulin nice and high, continuing to block fat burning. But the inflammation from poor sleep is also going to block fat burning. The high cortisol from poor sleep is also going to block fat burning. And so this is why you need to pay attention to sleep so much, because we see this in studies. 2 groups, calorie deficit. The group that had less sleep lost less fat and lost more muscle than the group who got more sleep. And then the next thing is not eating all the time. I talked about that. We need to allow time for insulin to come down. If you're a little grazer or a little nibbler, a little snacker, Doesn't matter if it's very little food. Doesn't matter if it's healthy. Insulin's still going to go up, blocking fat burning. And then the other thing too is making sure we're reducing inflammation and supporting liver detox, because when we are struggling with that, inflammation is going to block fat burning. Inflammation really drives up blood sugar. Like we see, if you can get inflammation in control, you are going to have a much better result with your blood sugar than tackling other things. So this is decreasing alcohol consumption. This is a big one because otherwise we're stuck in that storing pathway. We're going to see toxin exposure. So paying attention to those things like the household chemicals and the BPAs and warming up food in plastic containers. That stuff makes a difference too. Again, making sure that we have enough protein. If you don't have enough protein, we actually struggle with detoxification. So we need to get enough protein in our diet. Staying hydrated. Low hydration drives up inflammation and bloating, which is going to block fat burning. So hydration is so much more important than people realize. And it's also going to, we need to pay attention to your gut health too, because if we're struggling with inflammation in our gut health, if we're not going to the restroom daily, if we're not pooping every single day, you are going to be reabsorbing those toxins, causing more inflammation. So these are all things that make a massive difference that are affecting your blood sugar. Like literally not pooping increases inflammation, is going to negatively affect your blood sugar. So we need to get your bowel movements more regular as well. And this is something a lot of women struggle with. They're like, oh, I only go every few days. That's not good. It might be common, but it's not normal. Okay. And then we need to make sure we're getting enough carbs, because carbohydrates bring cortisol down. Remember, if cortisol is high, it's dumping sugar in your bloodstream. So carbohydrates are going to help lower that. So paying attention to the kind of carbs is going to be really important here. Whole grains, so like having whole grain pasta or having oats, having whole grain breads. This can be different kinds of fruits. Potatoes, amazing. Filled resistant starches. We love potatoes. Also increase serotonin, which is your happy hormone. So potatoes literally make you happy. This could be rice. This can be quinoa. Like there are so many solid, amazing carbohydrates that you can be consuming. We just want to make sure that we're having them never on their own. So even if you're having an apple, maybe you're having some peanut butter with it. I like having mine with walnuts. If you are having, like any kind of carb, make sure you're having some protein or veggies first to help stabilize those blood sugars, how quickly things will empty for you. And then we also have the supplement side of things. Having aminos between meals is very great. We have Kion aminos, which I love. I do not like the berry flavor, and I do not like the mango flavor. The one that I love is the lemon one and the watermelon one. Those are definitely the best. Those will help support muscle protein synthesis, so maintaining muscle mass to help with your insulin sensitivity. But the aminos won't spike your blood sugars, so you're not getting that storing pathway signal. So you stay in that fat burning pathway and being able to support your muscle mass at the same time, which is so important in women. There's a link for that in the show notes for you. Supplementing with omega-3s is amazing because that helps bring inflammation down. We have creatine for helping support muscle mass, very important for women in perimenopause and menopause. Also really great for metabolic health, also really great for your brain health. Having magnesium at nighttime is also super fantastic. So we have links for all these in our supplement guide. If you want a copy of that, just message me and I'll send it over to you. That will help you with so many things. And we know that anything that's going to help improve your metabolism, anything that's going to help lower inflammation, anything that's going to make your body better at burning calories in terms of like the muscle mass and lowering the stress and improving the sleep, some of these supplements, right? All of these things, anything that helps support your metabolism, make your body better at burning calories, lowering inflammation, is going to help support opening up those fat burning pathways. And so I hope this helped debunk some of the issues that you may have thought you were having or the things that you have to do. It doesn't have to be extreme. And for a lot of women, like fasting is not appropriate. It's supposed to have a start and stop date. So I'm not just talking like time in a day. I'm talking like, are we doing it for a few days? Are we doing it for a few weeks? It's not supposed to be a lifestyle. And we also know that for a lot of women, like we need to have enough protein and enough calories and enough nutrients to support detoxification, to support healthy bowel movements, to support all our hormones. And a lot of people aren't even getting that now, let alone when they're fasting. And so I always like to really caution around that. I can count on the number of people that we have done fasting with on my hands for specific protocols and for specific reasons with a very hard stop date and being monitored the right way, because this is something that's abused, and fasting is supposed to open your fat burning pathways. So if you are doing that and it's not working, or it was working before and now it's not working anymore, cool, you've overstressed your body, and now that's not a method that you can use anymore. And so we need to get to the root cause as to what's going on, and blood sugar is a really, really big part of this. So I hope this is helpful. Share with anyone that you know that is struggling with their blood sugar control. If you want that supplement guide, please let me know. Next time, we are going to be talking a little bit about cortisol specifically in your fat storing and fat burning pathways. So make sure you tune in for that. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.